da-da-da-da-da. Once this sets up, I peel it off, and you're left with this. So you'll see all these little kind of protrusions are where I had jammed into the clay with the edge of a pen. And then you'll see the first part of this mold that I took, right, of that little thing. What you do at that point is flip it over. You use the same Duplo box. You leave this guy in it. So we've got this. This is the point where you paint on a wax or something like a mold release, because if you pour any kind of silicone or latex, these are latex molds, if you pour it onto itself, it'll stick. So at this point, you just brush on a little bit of like wax, just wax. Then you pour more mold onto it, and when that sets up, you end up with a 2-part mold like this, right? So you can see all the bubbles from where I poured and they kind of raised. For this one, I actually stuck a tube as well into this foam. You can kind of see where there's a little X. I'd stuck something in there so that I would have a hole here, and that's where I was going to pour in the casting material. So hopefully you guys are following. This is just a hard one to show without like, hey, let's come for 3 days and keep doing this. But so now we have something where the inside of it is completely hollow, and it is the shape of that. So this is where we would do a slush cast, which can get messy and crazy, but we've got this hole. What we would do is mix up some material. We're going to pour it in, and then we're going to plug this hole with some clay. Super handy. You can use other things to kind of plug the hole afterwards, but let's give this a shot. We'll just do a rough one. Does anyone want to come and assist me with this one? Sir, come on up. Let's see. Give you some gloves. What's your name?
John.
John. Welcome, John. Have you cast and molded before? Awesome. All right. This is going to go great. Nothing could possibly go wrong. Would you like this to have any gold or iridescence?
Iridescence.
Iridescence it is. All right. And so again, all of these techniques apply even for these guys. So take that brush, dip in there, and just paint it on inside some of this wheat. And so keep in mind with this, since it's 2 parts, whatever you do on that side, you're going to have to do on this side to make sure it matches. So you will also be painting on this side of the way. No, that's great. Now you have some extra in there, so lift this up and just kind of shake it into that, and we'll just use it to kind of help coat this guy. Perfect. And then if you need more, you can always dab and get some more. Right up here on that guy. Perfect. All right. Now what color do you want behind the iridescence?
You pick.
Oh God, I have to make decisions. Audience, red, pink, purple, dark blue, red. All right. Have him ready. Let's zero out the scale. All right. Pour me 1 ounce, so it'll be a 1 right there.
Okay.
1.0.
How much do one of these normally go for? This size.
Oh God.
It's been too long.
Yeah. So when you buy smooth cast products, these are more expensive. It kind of depends on which one. Forgive me, I don't have the prices exactly on me. This size, and you get both of these together in a kit, it could run maybe like, it could be $40, $50, it depends. I know like the clear cast is a little bit different from Onyx. This might be cheaper because it's the white. But you can also get smaller kits. So they come, you get these bottles, but they're about yay size, and they're a little bit more affordable, especially if you just want to kind of get the feel for it and you don't want to commit to like, I'm going to buy a lot. Something to know too, if you start keeping things like this, you want to keep them somewhere in a closet. You don't want to keep them in a garage where it gets too hot or too cold. And they do have an expiration date. So if you keep something for like years and years, they're going to get really weird and not set up for you properly.
Okay.
Perfect. Switch out. I'll give you the hardener and the cup. And then you're just going to match him and do 1. So you'll
okay.
notice that's the weight of the cup.
Got it.
So now we're back to 0. So yeah, especially if you're starting out or you know you're just going to kind of try it and you don't have a big project that needs a lot, just buy something small. It is more cost effective to get larger quantities. So they actually make these in big tubs as well, and you get like pumps and kind of pump out with them. Again, it depends on the project you make. I usually buy about this size if I know I have a big project with a lot of armor, because I usually have enough things that come through during a year that I'll end up using it. And these are actually probably about a year old, so it's kind of coming to towards the end, which is why I have them here for us today. But no, don't feel that. That's why we have tarp. Again, anytime you're working, lay down a little extra. No, you're fine. Nothing is ruined. Always make sure you're working with newspapers, tarp. These are just garbage bags to kind of keep it from wrecking whatever surface you're working on top of. All right, we're doing red, right? Mm-hmm. So if you'll take that. Now, to get red instead of pink, we're going to have to put a few drops in there. So give us, I don't know, 5 or 6 drops. Thanks. Perfect. Now, stir that guy up. And now as you're stirring, if it looks too light or too pink, we can always add more in. And it's not even, you can go a little faster, but just keep it like smooth. Okay. So you've got the good motion. You've got this. Keep it smooth. While you were stirring that in.
Can I leave it intentionally dirty?
Intentionally dirty? Yeah. So like if for some reason you didn't mix everything in, now we're going to mix it again, so it'll probably help it. But like let's say you just put a little in, you kind of mix it, and then you pour it. You can get kind of a marbleized effect like that. Obviously you have less control about what it's going to look like at the end, but you can get kind of different effects that way. If you're making something where you're trying to look really consistent, usually that's when I'll have like a really regimented, like 2 drops of this, 1 drop of that. But let's say you're casting a gem or something, you could do, you could have like a swirl effect. So mix that guy in. Perfect. So now with this guy, we're going to put him back together. Usually what I would do is I would have saran wrap, because that's my go-to to kind of help bond everything together. We're going to pour in this, and then we're going to stuff it with some of this clay. So what I'll do is I'll get the clay ready, and I will have you pour for me, and then I will slush. So you want to make sure you have enough for a plug, just knowing that it's got to fill that up and kind of go over the edge. So in this case, I'll kind of pre-shape it a little bit. So we'll kind of do that number. All right. So if you want to just go ahead and pour on in that hole. Perfect. And we'll kind of plug them up. And the process of slush casting is essentially doing this. And it is an arm workout because now I'm committed to this for 10 minutes. So for example, when I've made, and again, this is why you're working over surface, so you're going to get a little bit of leak, not a big deal. The saran wrap helps with that kind of thing because you can also, after you put a plug in, kind of saran it, and it sort of keeps everything together. But you'll feel everything slushing around, like you can feel, if you want to just hold it from this side, you can feel kind of liquid moving in it, right? Mm-hmm. So you'll know when it's set up. One, you would set a timer for your 10 minutes, but you'll feel that start to not be liquid anymore, and it'll just be something really kind of slow. And actually, you know what? We'll do this. You'll have to use your imagination for how it will come together, but give me another mold. Let's do a slush cast where you can actually see what's happening, guys. So we'll pour some of these out. All right. So now you're going to be stuck committed to this for 10 minutes. What we'll do is I will have you stand up here and hang out with me. And you're just going to slush this back and forth, side to side, keeping it inside the swing, right? You're going to do that number.
Just do this one?
Yep.
Okay.
And everyone, you're just going to have to use your imagination about how it would look with the 2 sides to it. And I don't know if you guys can see it or if you can turn it to them a little bit. It looks like Kool-Aid, it just runs back and forth, and you're just going to kind of watch it do that. And as you're going, as we get through the next few minutes, you will see it start to move slower. It becomes kind of more like molasses. And that's when you know you're close to it being done. Let's fill this one out. Let's see how this guy's coming. chucks. So again, you'll notice I'm kind of pulling from the sides and pushing from the inside. This guy, before, again, while it was curing, I would have it over a mannequin or over something curved to kind of get a curved shape. Can you guys see the iridescence? Right? There's no paint in this at all, and it already looks pretty polished and done. So, but you'll also notice, maybe you won't, you gotta hold it up to light, but through this part, it's a little thin. We can see through it. Maybe you guys can, maybe you can't.
Yeah.
I'll pass it around. So, if that ever happens to you, and you can kind of see on this side where it doesn't look as smooth, you can sort of see some raised details. So this is really thin, no good, right? Ah, it's ruined, throw it away. No, just stick it back in your mold, right? And you can mix up more resin and just pour to fill that kind of section. I don't think we have time for today, but let's pass this around. You guys can kind of look at the iridescence. Let's start here. 5 minutes? Oh, all right. You might not be committed for, you might be stuck here after the panel. You're never leaving.
That's okay.
Lip sync.
So let's see. I think I've covered most of what I want to talk about today. Does this make sense? Does it seem as scary as it did when you guys walked in? Right? We have a lot. You've never done it before. Look, you're a pro. This is pro casting work here. But really, the best thing to do is just go get a test kit of one of these. Like, pick up a glitter. Like, so these glitter bottles. So this was $4.60. This actually has a price on. This is like $5. A little goes a long way if you're just brushing it on. If you're mixing it in with the resin, and that's something we could have done when we mix in the color, you can add this and mix it as well. The advantage to mixing this into the resin is as you sand, it's still in there, so it kind of gives a different look. But you know, just invest a little bit of money and go give it a try. This particular molding putty is like $20 for this size, and again, you could probably cast something this size and then a few more things. My cats have always been laying on this. But honestly, I think when I talk to people, what's scariest is either not knowing where to start or just knowing that, you know, oh, mold making is so expensive, I don't want to start and mess it up and be afraid to ruin it. Just start with some of the simpler things and don't be afraid to mess something up, because honestly, that's kind of how you learn. Like, and what'll happen to me, like sometimes, like maybe the first cast I did of this ended up with bubbles or something strange. I still set that aside and kept it, and then I made a new casting. But then when I was like trying to paint or seeing if I could, you know, how I wanted to attach something to it, I used the one that didn't turn out to kind of test paint on, or test how I wanted to attach it, that kind of thing. Or that's when I wanted to like heat gun it and change the shape. That's the one I would kind of experiment with. So honestly, the best way to learn is just do it and try it and know that it's this easy. Like you can walk up and start casting. Are we getting slow? Oh yeah. Can you guys see how slow this is moving now? So it's like, and what will happen is when it's ready, you will see it's not moving anymore, and it is donesies. And then you usually leave it for another minute or two, and you can pop it straight out. Wrapping it up. We're wrapping it up. If you guys have questions, catch me in the hall, I guess, and I'm happy to answer them for you. But we're gonna wrap up so we can clean this up and give it to another room. And if you guys have any of my molds or whatever, just bring them up and drop them on the stage for me. It'd be great. Thanks for coming out. Thank you for coming out.